welcome you guys. Thank you so much for being here. So what we're going to do is I'll introduce Judy, tell you a little bit about her. We'll go through the Q&A process. So I'll do an interview with her. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat and we can try to incorporate them as we go through the discussion. And then we'll open it up a little later on. Judy, thank you so much for being here. I know how amazing you are. And this is such an important topic. We're going to get a lot out of the day today. All right, so Judy has over 25 years of experience working in male-dominated industries, and she started at the bottom and held positions as a top producer. She was also the owner of 3 different insurance agencies, so she's been an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur, and she promoted women into positions that hadn't been there before. Judy's passion is to provide women everywhere with the tools they need to be successful in their careers, provide for their families, and have some time to do what they truly desire. And I'm getting to know her in a different kind of venue, and she coaches executives across the country. She's a real leader, a fantastic coach. She also has written several books, and 2 of them are Walking on the Glass Floor, 7 Essential Qualities of Women Who Lead. And another one that we're going to be talking about or focusing a little bit on today is Selling in a Skirt. She's all about advocating for women in the workplace, and she wants to show them that anything's possible. So thank you, Judy. You're amazing. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I feel like there's only 2 of us that are not from Oklahoma. So we have to change that. Either we come to Oklahoma or you have to come out of there for a little while.
There we go. And we do get a mixture of people across the country. So, okay.
I know.
All right. So before we get started, obviously we want to learn a little bit more about you. Please tell us about your background and how you arrived at this place in your life and career.
Oh my goodness. So I'm not going to go all the way back, but I do have to go far back for a minute. A wise woman once told me that if you go back to when you're 5 or 6, something happened at that point in your life that brings you to where you are today. And when she said that to me, I'm like, I don't remember anything at 5 or 6 that brought me to this, but it's true. Because when I thought about it, I remember when I was 5, I lived in New York and we didn't have all the trees and the grass that, we have everywhere else. We had cement. And I remember my brothers were building a hot rod and I wanted to watch. And so I would bend down to look because they had all these pieces putting together. And my dad would hold me by my ponytail and say, girls, don't do that, and move me away.
Oh,
so
no.
when he left, I came back and same thing, he pulled me back. Well, the 3rd time I thought I really have to see what's going on and how all these pieces get put together. And so I leaned down really far and I got a hammer into my cheek because I was way too close. And I remember thinking, boy, this really hurts, but I know what's coming. And my dad said to me, you're nothing more than a waste of time. Girls don't do this. You should act like a girl. You should be like a lady, da, 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 da. The reason I'm saying this is because back then, girls don't do this. What do I do now? Girls do this. So that's, when she said that to me, I thought, okay, that's really what makes sense. So I am, an executive coach. I'm a trainer. I'm a speaker. And I have a company called Selling in a Skirt. And I've been empowering professional women for so many decades that it feels like I haven't done anything other than this. It's like going home for me. So I appreciate you inviting me here and I love the opportunity.
Oh, well, that is fantastic. Wow, what a story. I had a dad who had 3 daughters, so he pushed us all forward, and both my sisters are medical doctors now. But he used to say when we were kids, women can't do that, girls can't do that, as a way to tell us to prepare, you know what I mean?
Right.
To respond. Okay, all right, so let's see here. So in your books, you talk about the delicate balance of work and home, and obviously that's a challenge for all of us, work and life, and women not knowing their true value. Women often also feel the imposter syndrome when they're doing great things. Tell us about your perspective on all of that.
Well, first I want to bust this myth that there's work-life balance, because there's no such thing as work-life balance. And if anybody really thought about it, they would know there's no such thing. What I believe there is harmony. And wherever you are, you need to be present, because when you're present, there's harmony. So when you're home, be home. When you're working, be working. Now, that doesn't mean that life doesn't happen and you could be working and somebody calls and, something happened to your child at school or they're sick or whatever. You're not going to say, oh, you know what? I'm working right now. It's not my balance. You're going to go. So wherever you are, just be present. So I think there's harmony. As far as the imposter syndrome, that is like a huge topic, because all of us, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what your background is, we all suffer from it. All of us. At some point in your life, you are getting up there and you're thinking, I don't really know why I'm here. I'm way out of my league, or whatever that is. This is an internal thing that happens. We have at least 50,000 thoughts per day, 50,000, and 80% of those are negative. And what we do is we tell ourselves these things that are going to happen because we're so clear about it. The picture is so real that we really imagine it happening. And most of the time it doesn't happen, but we tend to, live in this space. And I was reading something the other day that one woman that most people are aware of, that may know all these wonderful things that she's done, she said when she wrote her 11th or 12th or 13th or 14th book, she said, uh-oh, this time they're going to find out about me, that I'm really an imposter. And it's Maya Angelou. So,
oh my gosh.
Right? So when you think about that, we all suffer through this, all of us. And so what we need to do is we really have to decide what it is that we're so afraid of, or what it is that we don't think that we're enough of, and really decipher that. Is it really just a limiting belief, or is it something that's really real? Because you only have control over something that's really real, that you can do something about. And when it's a limiting belief that we set on ourselves, we can get rid of it. Usually it takes a little while, but usually we can.
Okay, give them some techniques. So the whole self-talk thing is a big deal. And how do you challenge your own thoughts when they're destructive to you?
First, you have to decide what that thought is and where it's coming from. Okay, so I go back to the story about my dad. When I was in high school and he told me that he was entering me into beauty pageants because he said I was beautiful, which I wasn't beautiful. I was cute. That's all. I was cute. But when he kept telling me that, I wanted to go to medical school. And every time he would tell me that, I would say, that's not what I want to do. And so he would keep saying, you're going to go, you have to do this. And when the final thing was, he said, you have to go, you have to enter, you have to win, because all you are is pretty and you'll never amount to anything else.
Oh my God.
Okay, so when you think about that as a woman in business, as a woman who's a leader, as a woman who wants to be impactful and all these other things, this constantly was in my mind. So when I would get to go on stage, I would have to do this self-talk against that self-talk. I would have to rewind this tape and say, you're going out there, you've got something good to say, you've got a message, and just, you're awesome. I would have to look in the mirror. So some of the techniques are you have to do some self-reflection and you have to do some affirmations. I did it in the mirror. I would say, you're awesome, you're amazing, just to get out of that. Walking on stage was another story. I would have to take a deep breath and I would have to say, they're here because they want to hear your message. So go out there and deliver your message. And then I was okay once I got out there. So that's one technique that I use. You have to rewind the tapes. But another thing is, which is always, I do this and I've done this a lot. You have to decide what that limiting belief is. Take the limiting belief and write it down. Write it down. When you write it down, what are some of the emotions that you attach to it? Are you afraid? Are you, what is it? Because it's something that's limiting you from doing what you're great, what your brilliance is. Write it down. And then look back and say, is this real or is it just something that I've been living with? You have to make that choice. And then once you make the choice, write down a belief that you have about yourself that's more in line with who you are. So for me, you're never going to be anything more than pretty. You're not going to amount to anything. That brings, it's hurtful, it's destructive, it's all of those negative things. Is it real or is it not? Well, it was real for me and that was 4 decades ago. It was real for me then. It's not real for me now. So I think I'm going to release it. Now I'm just saying that you're going to release it. Doesn't mean it happens like that, because it doesn't. But now I'm going to do something else. What belief can I write down that's more in alignment? I have a message, I bring value, and that makes me feel good. So it's just something that it's a mind game. I'm very big on mind games, and that's basically how you have to come out of something that's hurtful.
That is so beneficial and really, really important. I think women really give themselves a hard time a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So sales is really difficult for women because of the negative connotation it has for many people. Why does it have that negative connotation, and what do we do about it when we're trying to sell ourselves, sell in our business?
So what's the first thing you think about when you hear sales? You want to buy a car, you want to buy this, you want to buy a watch, like all the nonsense, and it's all negative. And why is it negative? Who knows why it's negative? Because truly sales is a very honorable profession. It is. And it's one of the professions that men and women are on an equal playing field, as far as your salary, because most people that are in sales are not on a salary, they're on commission. So you make the commission of what you sell. But here's the hard part. People think that sales is the most difficult thing to do. It's, you're asking people for money. How we don't have a good relationship with money. So let's not forget that. There's another limiting belief. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's what we were brought up with. You have to be able to decide what you have for somebody, what the solution you're going to bring, and how are you going to get there. So for me personally, I have never, ever, 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 and I could add lots of evers to that, ever sold a thing. And yet I was the #1 producer for financial services. I was the #1 recruiter, which you're selling a position, and I was the #1 agency manager. How did I do that? Because I believe that sales is nothing more than a conversation. You are not going in there to sell somebody, to crush it, to, bring home, whatever. That's not what sales is. And as a woman, you want to sell with your inherent female qualities. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about something you're being empathetic. You're being an educator. You're asking questions. When I sold insurance, I would never say to somebody, how much do you want to spend? Who's going to be the beneficiary? How much does your face value? I would never say that. What I would say is, tell me why it's important for you to have this policy in place today. And then I would stop, because what I'm going to hear is their why. When they tell me their why, they're also telling me how much they want to spend, who the beneficiary is, what's the face value. But I don't have to ask that, because I want to know their why in their own words. And that is how you do sales. There's nothing better than when somebody says, wow, you really listened to me. That is the best compliment for salespeople. So for women, go in it as a conversation. Don't go in it that you're going to have this win-lose affair with somebody. It's not that relationship. You want to build a relationship. Men are much more transactional. Let's get in, get out, and get the check, because that's how they were taught. And yet more men are becoming more relational because they know there's value in it.
Yeah, that's what sells. That's what sells. You and I were talking the other day about the bullpen idea, and my daughter's just gotten into sales, and the way women sell and the way men sell are different.
Yeah.
And we've got value add, to your point about the relationships.
But it's okay that it's different, because the truth of the matter is, if you take the differences and you put the word liability, it's going to be negative. If you put the word that it's going to be more of an asset, that's the positive side. So the difference is, I used to team men and women up together, because the men knew how to get from building a rapport into the sales process. And women were more like Vicky Visitor. They would come back and say, no problem. I really can't get into the conversation now because we're building a rapport and I don't want to disturb this relationship. That's not what you want. They're there for a reason. So you have to be able to get into that conversation. So they would learn from each other.
Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. I know that you do teach people both how to make a living and have a profitable business and make a difference. It's a struggle for a lot of us. How do you do both, and what mindset do you need to be able to do that?
When you're building a business, you have to ask yourself the question, why? Why am I building this business? What is it that is driving me to do this? Did somebody say to you, you do, let's say you're a painter, you paint the most beautiful pictures, you should go into business. Is that why you did it? Or did you see somebody else that started a business that made, they were making oodles of money and you wanted to do that? You have to determine your why, because once you get the why, then you can start building the business. And then you have to decide, who am I and what is it that I'm trying to do? Most people think that they have to have this amazing website and they have to have the most beautiful logo and all the colors and the fonts. That's part of it, but that's not the whole thing. You have to decide, what is the problem that you're solving? If there is no problem to solve, you probably don't have a business. So I always tell people to do some market research, do some surveys, ask people what it is. If we were talking about women in leadership, what would you want to know about that? You'll hear the problems. So whatever the business is, you should do some kind of market research. And then the thing that I find most interesting is that people naturally assume, men and women, that if there's money in your checking account, in your bank account, that you're making a profit. But they're not equating the expenses that you have, and what are you going to be doing? How am I going to better myself? So in order to be successful, you have to have the fundamentals first, and then go crazy, and then do what you want. But you have to be able to build it first. You have to be able to know what it is, why you're doing it, who your people are, and then making sure that you have all the pieces in place. And don't try to do this alone. You should have people, resources. Now, it doesn't matter. When I was in Connecticut, we had SCORE, and I think SCORE is almost everywhere, but SCORE, these are retired executives that volunteer their time to people that want to build a business. Find your resources.
Very good. Very good. All right. So you talked a little bit about the difference in mindset between men and women in selling a skirt. You talked a little bit more about that. Is there anything else you can add about the differences in mindset and how we can capitalize on being women?
I think you just have to remember to, use your your feminine traits, but men are much more able to talk about the things that they've done in the past, and women would consider it bragging. Men just are talking about themselves, but women have a hard time letting people know that they are, amazing. There was a study done where I think it was either Yale or Harvard, and I don't like to confuse the two because they're kind of rivals, but they did a study about men and women, and they put all the men on one side and all the women on another side and gave them absolutely no directions. And at the end of the time period, the men knew what the sports teams they all played, and they all knew, what awards they won and what championship rings they got and all this kind of stuff. The women knew about how many kids everybody had, and, about their private family life and what their family likes to do and all of this. So women were much more relational in what they do. Men were much more transactional because this was just like in and out and let's do it. The difference is that the communication is different. If you just assume that everybody that you talk to is going to communicate the way you do, it's not. It doesn't work like that. Men are much more bullet pointed people. They want to get to the bottom line. They don't want the story. Women are much more storytellers. Mm-hmm. But there are exceptions to the rule. There are men that are storytellers. There are women that are, transactional. What you have to do is you learn that person right away. When you ask the first question or you have the first comment, what you get back is the person you're talking to. So if I said to you, so Donna, tell me about your family. And you said, got 2 kids.
Yeah.
Okay. I know she doesn't want to talk about her family. Okay. I know so we're just going to get to the bottom line. But if I said to you, tell me about your family, you say, well, I've got triplets and, the 2 are doing this and 1 is doing this and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, right in there. And we're going to have a conversation. So you have to take your lead from the person you speak to. And women are much more intuitive. So they know that more than men do. Men are like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. You're bringing up something that we hadn't talked about. I've got a friend who says, if you don't toot your own horn, it's going to remain untooted. Women are terrible at promoting themselves or advocating for themselves. Yes. And I know that there's a societal thing about you can either be liked or competent, and we want to be liked. And so we don't do some of these things. What do you do? How do you make sure people are aware of what you've accomplished?
That is such a good question. And we hear this all the time. We don't want to toot our own horns. You're supposed to be able, my mom used to say, if you have to tell somebody how wonderful you are, you're not. And I'm like, oh, okay, but that doesn't work in this world. Not today, it doesn't. Yeah. What I always tell my clients is you should have something in your back pocket. You should always have something that you are proud of that you've done. And I'm not talking about like I'm the #1 salesperson or I've got all these sales awards. Not that. It should be something that, you can tell about yourself that maybe it's because somebody else advocated for you. So I have 3 or 4 things that are in my back pocket, but like one of them is I was at a conference and I was sitting next to this man and we were chatting, and the MC was talking about this award, and the award was about character integrity and how your peers vote for you and da da da. And I said to this gentleman, I said, someday I would love to get that award. And they called my name, and I was the first and only person to get this award. Do you not think I'm going to talk about it? Of course I am. Mm-hmm. Or when I was nominated by, I still don't know who, for to be one of the 7 women to watch from Thrive Global for International Women's Day. I didn't do this myself. Somebody advocated for me. So I would always say, have something in your back pocket that's interesting about you. And when appropriate, bring it up, because somebody's going to say, well, tell me something different. I always say, tell me something that's not on your resume. What's something that I wouldn't be able to find out about you on your resume? And they will tell me something. I'm like, wow, that is so interesting. And it opens up another conversation. So don't be afraid to tell something about yourself, because people are interested in you. They're buying you. They're not buying your product. They're not buying your service. They're buying you. And if you can't sell you, your most important, value that you have, the most important person in the world, to yourself, if you can't sell yourself, no one's going to buy you, because that's what they're buying. They're not buying your insurance product. They're not buying your widget. They're not buying that. They're buying you because they want to be around you. They want to be in your circle. So you have to have something different. Just have something. And I always tell people, just write down everything you've ever done, then erase the things that are common. And just have those 2 or 3 things that stand out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm wondering as you're talking is I'm going, okay, so given one of these accomplishments of yours, how do you weave that into the conversation? So the humble brag kind of idea, how do you do that?
Well, it depends on the conversation. So if somebody was saying, if I said, well, tell me about yourself, Donna, tell me, about some of the things you do. Generally speaking, you're going to say, well, tell me a little bit about you. And then that's where it fits in. You don't just come out and say, hey, how are you? I wanted to tell you about Thrive Global because they nominated me and blah, blah, blah. That's not how it is. That's, when you tell something about yourself, it's not bragging. If you're not trying to put somebody else down, it's not bragging. If this is about something that's important to you, it won't always come up. I don't say this every single time I meet somebody, but I do say it when somebody says, well, tell me something about yourself. I have like 3 or 4 things that are all because of somebody else. I was voted to be the sales coach of the year by a group of my peers. I didn't know anything about it. And they announced it on, a Zoom where there were 100 and something people sitting there, and they caught me crying because I was so shocked. I didn't ask for it. I didn't know anything about it. Do you not think that would be something good to tell somebody if they were talking about, hiring you as a coach? Tell me something about you, about being a coach. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You don't just throw it out there. It's got to be appropriate. It's got to be appropriate. And you'll know when it's appropriate.
Very good. Let's see here. So how do you think we need to change how we sell in this environment with COVID? The other thing that occurred to me when you were talking earlier is about working at home and separating work and life is hard now. We're working at home.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. And, I think we're a little bit more prepared for it than we were, because it's already like we're going into the second half of the second year of doing this. A lot of people have transformed bedrooms into offices because now they're spending a lot of time there. But I remember in the very beginning, we weren't prepared for that. And so, people were using the dining room table, and then at the end of the day, they have to clean it off. And, but we've been doing that for decades because a lot of people didn't have a home office. So, you're somewhat prepared. But what's different about it is now there is Zoom. There are Microsoft Teams. There are video capacity to have meetings. And so when I'm here, I heard in the beginning, oh my goodness, I can't develop relationships because I'm not seeing anybody face to face. Here's my question. When you first meet somebody, do you automatically whip out an application and have somebody sign something? And they would say to me, oh my goodness, no, I would never do that. I'm like, well, what do you do? And they say, I invite them for coffee. And I'd say, okay, so why can't you do a virtual coffee? Let's meet for coffee for 15 minutes. Okay, so what do you do after that? After you have coffee with somebody, what do you do? Do you whip out the application? They would say, no. We would, have a second meeting and we would talk about getting to know each other. I said, okay, so let's schedule another meeting so we can get to know each other a little bit better. It's the same thing, but now you have a person in front of you. Is it exactly the same? No, it isn't. But the truth of the matter is it's not that different. So when you're trying to do a sale with somebody, don't just jump in and say, hey, do you want to buy this? Because that doesn't work. I don't know how many of you are on LinkedIn. I'm sure most of you are on LinkedIn. But did anybody ever connect with you on LinkedIn and you agree? And then the next thing you know, in your LinkedIn Messenger, there is a message that's 12 pages long telling them how great this person is and they want to sell you something. Oh, and my response to them always is, I'm not ready to get married. You don't just marry somebody so quickly, right? You have to date them. You have to woo them. You have to court them. That's the same thing as meeting somebody on Zoom. I mean, if you look around here, there's a whole bunch of women here that you should know. Are you going to just walk in and say, hey, Ellen, you're at the top of my screen, so I'm going to sell you something? No, you're going to say, hey, Ellen, how about if we connect? I'd love to connect with you. Let's just do a Zoom coffee. We've done Zoom happy hours. We've done Zoom dinners, and it's fun because you're seeing people in their natural habitat. How much more personal can you get? There's a child running across the room. There's a cat across your keyboard. So all kinds of stuff, babies crying. You don't get that when you're talking to somebody in person. So which is better, being 100% professional or 100% real? So I don't think it's much of a difference. I think that it's all, again, here. It's how you decide what it's going to be. If it's going to be awkward, it's going to be awkward.
Yeah, good point. Really good point. All right. So talking about working remotely, we've got teams that are working remotely. We've also got to keep ourselves motivated in this time. Do you have any insights about that? Like, how do you work with teams remotely best and keep yourself and them motivated?
Okay. So you have to remember that everybody's doing their best. So first and foremost, keep the word grace in your head, because we have to have grace for ourselves and for our teams. So if you're working with a team, the number one thing you have to do is make people feel like they're still part of the team. So schedule, a regular meeting. If you do it in person, do it on, on video, on a virtual one. If you don't ordinarily do a weekly meeting, create one, because you want people to feel they're still part of the team. That's what it is. We feel so disconnected, and connection is a basic human need that we all need and we all want. So let's make that happen. So that's the first thing I would do, is I would have a scheduled meeting. And not to say this is a formal meeting, and this is to be just a check-in. I just want to make sure everybody's good, because what was the first thing we asked when we got into this whole pandemic? The first thing we asked was, are you okay? How are you? Because that's all people wanted to hear. That's all people wanted to know. So that's the first thing. To keep people motivated, do something fun. I went on a virtual meeting. I think there were, 300 or 400 people on it. And the theme was, I was on two different ones. The first thing was tutus. Okay, can you imagine everybody showing up in a tutu, male and female? That's the first one. The second one were hats. And the people were so clever with hats. My husband is a retired colonel from the Air Force, and he has, the whole helmet with the gas mask and everything. So I showed up in that.
Wow.
And all it is, it's an icebreaker. You can motivate people like that, but you can also have people, do something. You can say, okay, so whoever has, let's look around your office right now. If you have a pink pen, show it to me. Okay, you've got a $25 Starbucks card, something like that. Just motivate people to stay in the game, because this is the great resignation and everything else. You want people to stay with you. Give them a reason to stay. It could be as corny as a gift card. It could be as corny as saying, okay, I'm gonna send you DoorDash and we're going to have lunch together, whatever. Just do something. Just keep people close, because it's very easy for people to spread out and leave, and you don't want that. You want to give people, invite them to stay.
Right. Especially your best people. In times of change, re-recruit your best people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know that better than anybody.
All right. So I'm always interested when I've got guests like you that are just so nationally renowned, to have you talk about what you see coming. Do you see any trends that we should be aware of? What do you think is going to happen over the next year? And then how should we prepare?
I wish I had that crystal ball.
No,
because I really thought that we were going to be back, on some kind of track this year. And it seems like we're not yet. If you ask me about what I think is going to happen, as far as the world goes or how it's going to be, I don't know, because every day it changes and everybody's opinion changes. And that just makes me crazy. I'm a very systematic person. If you tell me this, it's got to be that. It's not going to be this, but it changes every minute. The trend, I would say, is more and more people are learning how to be comfortable virtually. And I do believe that even when, and it's a when, not if, even when things go back to whatever that new normal, somewhat normal, kind of normal, whatever that is, I still think there are going to be people that are going to do things virtually. I do believe that, because of a couple of things. One, it's very convenient. It's very convenient. Yeah. Forget the fact that you don't know what people are wearing from the waist down. From the waist up, people are still looking good, but it's very convenient. You don't have to leave your house. The second thing is, if you are a speaker, a coach, or a trainer, you know that your clients are now saving money on your expenses. So why wouldn't the clients want to do the same thing if they can? So it's cost effective. And then the third thing is, you actually, when you're done for the day, you just turn off your computer and there's your family.
Oh gosh.
So,
yes.
Right. So, and I think one of the great things that came out of this whole thing, and I know that this whole thing is not great, but I think one of the greatest things is that it brought family back together. Like, people are having dinner together. You remember all the, there's 500 activities and everybody scatters and, you've got 3 seconds to eat together. Well, now you have time. Now you can get to know your family again. And I think that's one of the greatest things. So if I have to think of a trend, I'm hoping that the trend is that we still have meals together, because I think that it's definitely a big bonus for me.
Oh, no, I'm with you. Totally agree. All right. I've got one more last question for you before we open it up to everybody. Okay. So guys, be thinking about your questions, please. So let's see here. I want to know about leadership. So you focus on leadership as well. I know you do that kind of coaching. One of the things that people are interested in is getting ahead, having people advocate for them. And you and I had talked about getting men to advocate for women. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I am a big proponent for having other people be your walking ambassador. So whether it's women or whether it's men, but let me talk about the men first, and then I'll talk about walking ambassadors. I do believe that there are a lot of men out there that truly believe that they can open doors and have and show opportunities to women. They are what I call my male champions. I encourage them. I let them know that this is something we all need. You cannot do this alone. You should not do this alone. You need to have people around you in order for you to be successful. So if there are men that offer an opportunity and say, hey, I know that there's a position coming up. I think you would be great at it. Do you want me to put a good word in? You say yes. Just say yes. If there are, if they can introduce you to somebody, if they can mentor you, you need to be part of that whole thing. Now, as far as how do you get that, most people say to me, when you talk about a walking ambassador, it's somebody that's your own private PR person. Like they're telling everybody about you, no matter where they go, you are fitting into that conversation. And they always say, well, how do I get that? Well, in order to get that, you have to do that. Exactly. It's like giving and receiving. You give with no expectation of receiving. You don't receive it first. So I always say, find one of your clients or somebody that that you truly believe what they do is amazing, and then talk about them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say, do you know Donna? You need to know Donna. Donna is amazing. Here's what she does. Do you know Donna? Do you know Donna? Do you know Donna? Now, I've done that with my my CPA when I lived in Connecticut. He only worked with entrepreneurs, and I only worked with entrepreneurs. So I said to him, are you okay? Are you open for new clients? And he said, yeah. So everybody that I talked to that I thought would be a good person, not just every person, everybody that I thought would be a good person for him, I would introduce him. And then after a while, he called me and he said, I have like 10 new clients and you're the common denominator. And I said, great, I'm so excited. And he said, how did you do that? I said, I told them how amazing you are. You've been my CPA forever. And he said, well, can I do the same thing for you? That's how it works. Will it always work like that? No. But when it does, it's like magic, because all of a sudden they're thinking of you all the time and you're at the top of their head and it's like, how can I introduce them? Who do I know? It's the same thing. Don't expect it first. You have to give first.
Very, very good point. That is excellent. Really excellent. All right. Everybody, please go ahead and take yourself off mute, take yourself, put your camera back on, and let's have a conversation as a group. Do you have some questions for Judy?
I do not bite.
What would you like to know? What haven't we gone over?
Or if you have a personal question, I always answer personal questions too.
Let's see here. Okay, well, I give them a chance to think about it here. One of the things I always try to get the guests to do is talk about the most important learnings they're trying to share. If you had to summarize it, say, this is what I really want you to learn from me, what are those?
I would say there's a couple of things that I would say you should always do. You should build relationships before you need them, because when you need them, it's too late. So if you find people that you find to be interesting, that can bring value to you, that you think that you can bring value to them, if there's somebody there, build a relationship. Reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on Facebook, it doesn't matter. Just reach out and connect with them, because when you connect with them now and you really don't need them, quote unquote, when you do need them, or if you do need them, they're already there. So building relationships is key. And the second thing is ask questions. I am known as the question queen. I ask more questions than you can possibly imagine. And why? Is because I'm interested, not interesting. I want to be interested in them, not interesting to them. So, but the third part of that is when you ask the question, you better be listening. Because you need to, if you ask that question, you should listen. I take copious notes. Whenever I'm meeting somebody, I always ask them, are you okay if I take notes? They only have two answers, yes or no. If they say no, I don't take notes, but nobody ever said that. And what I do is when I ask a question, I will write things down in their own words. So when I say it back to them, that's when you get that compliment of, wow, you're really listening, because I heard them. So you just want to make sure that you're available, you're present. It's those kind of things that are going to make you successful. But build the relationships before you need them. I know right now, if I decided it's now 10:42 Central, if I decided at 11 o'clock, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired, too old, too cranky, whatever it is. I don't want to do this anymore. I have a lot of people in my network, a lot. And all I'd have to do is put it out there and say, what should I be doing next? And I will get people say, do you know this person? Can I introduce this person? Why don't you come over here? Why don't you do over there? Because I've taken years to build these relationships. Do I still have everybody that I started out with? No, because I'm not right for them. They outgrew me or I outgrew them. And that happens, but that's life. But I know for a fact I could find a job if I wanted to go back to corporate, which I do not. But if I wanted to go back to corporate, I could.
You could, absolutely. No, boy, I'm with you. And that idea of, I also connect people all the time. So I say, okay, you've got this skill, you've got this need, let me put you two together.
Yep.
You do that enough times and you become the hub of the wheel, where you've got the relationships with all these people.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you say that, Donna. I was at an event and we were talking about how to introduce people to each other. And so this was all women. This was a lot of women. So the woman that asked me that, and I said, well, tell me, what do you do? She said, I'm an organizer. And I organize, you know, offices and garages and homes and whatever. And so I said, okay, who here needs an organizer? And so people raised their hands. So I picked on one woman and I said, tell me about you. She goes, I'm the most unorganized person. So I said, Jane, meet Sue. Sue, meet Jane. And that was it. That was it. And they did start working together, which is funny. But I mean, that's basically how easy it is to connect people. So start that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we are getting questions. So Lori's asking, which of your books do you recommend we read first?
So it depends, Lori. Are you looking for sales? Or are you looking for leadership? Selling in a Skirt is really about women in sales, and, you know, and it's for men as well, because they read it and learn it. Leadership is a very self-reflective book, you know, so be prepared that there are exercises to do and things like that. So it really just depends. Are you looking for a quick read? Are you looking for something that's going to make you think and do? And that's all I can say. I love both of them. I love both of them. So awesome. I hope that answered the question.
Perfect. Hey, guys, feel free to speak up. I know it's a little nerve-wracking with a big group, but okay. So Susan Cheers is asking, do you have any particular advice for selling professional services? She's a trademark lawyer, like legal services, accounting services, and what about following up in selling these services if you don't want to be a pest?
Okay. So let's just start with that. You're not being a pest. You're not being a pest because you have something that somebody needs. Let's just go there. The truth of the matter is that you're selling yourself first. So if somebody's approached you and said, I need your service, find out what they want to do, you know, all the typical questions. You're doing your fact finder or whatever. And they say to you, okay, I'm going to think about it. And then nothing. Because that's what happens. It takes 10 to 12, and it might be more than that now, for touch points. So after you've, I mean, it used to be 6 to 8, then I don't know, it could be 50, I don't know, but let's say 10 to 12. So after you've called the first time and emailed the first time, that's two touch points. In your fact find, when you had that initial conversation, they might have said something to you that is not 100% on the professional side. They might have said to you, you know, one of the reasons that I'm, you know, I want to get this trademarked is because I want to make sure nobody does this. So when I do my next book, which is going to be in Italy, and they told you all of this. So what I would do is I always have like a library of articles on any topic that you want. And so I would find something on Italy and I would say, now, who was the question from?
It's from Susan Cheers. She's a trademark attorney.
Okay, Susan. Okay, so I would say, Susan, I saw this today and I thought of you. Have a great day. That's all I would say. I wouldn't say anything about the appointment. I wouldn't say anything about working together. I wouldn't say, when am I going to hear from you? I would just send that because that's a third touch point. So when she sees that, she's going to say, oh, she's not all about business. She remembered what I said about Italy. Isn't that interesting? She may not call me yet, but now she knows that I'm more about just the business. And so you have a couple of those touch points. There might be a, you know, an event, maybe something like this. And you could say, hey, Susan, I'm going to this event. I thought this might be interesting to you. Give her the link. So it's those kind of things. Is everybody always going to pick up the phone or do whatever you want immediately after that? Maybe not. Sometimes you just have to keep courting them. After a while, you're going to go back to, you know, when we first talked, I know that this was something that was important to you. Is this still important to you? You know, something like that. Now, there is the final. This is what I've done only a few times, and you have to be really careful when you do this. So listen to what I'm saying to you. if you've done everything you can and you think you have, exhausted all the articles and the events and the questions, when am I going to see you, and blah, 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 blah. And you really think like it's not going anywhere, but you really would like to have closure on this because a no is better than a maybe. This is what I've done. I would say, Susan, when we met, I know that you were really interested in doing blah, blah, blah. One of two things happened. Either you are so busy that you can't even concentrate on this, or you're no longer interested. So I had a meeting with my team and we've decided to close your file. Now, what happens? You hold your breath because you're giving them the out. You're giving them an out. I've done this, I've done it twice, and both times they immediately emailed me and said, oh, no, I've just been so busy. No. But you could close the door and just know that that is a possibility, but at least it's a no. And that's what I'm saying. In sales, there's a yes and a no. I do not where maybe came in, because there is no such thing as maybe in sales. But if you can't, you could do that. Now, when I was in insurance, and somebody would say to me after we've been back and forth a number of times that I've still got to think about it. Because what I always did was I would book another appointment and I would say to them, okay, so Friday at 10 o'clock seemed to be good for you. How about next Friday? And they'd either say, yeah, that works, or Friday at 10 is no good, but 12 is good, or no, I still want to think about it. Okay. So if it's still that I still want to think about it, I would do this. I would say, can you do me one favor? And of course, everybody says yes. Say, I know that this is probably not the right time for you, but can you just do me a favor and can you find a policy elsewhere? Maybe I'm not the right person and that's okay, but this is so important. Can you please let me either recommend somebody or will you promise me that you'll get this covered? And then it's the same thing. They're either going to say, no, I want to do it with you. I'm just not ready, or I don't have the money and I didn't want to tell you that, or okay, I'll take a recommendation. It doesn't matter to me because I will be able to sleep knowing that I have at least given them the opportunity to get it elsewhere. So sometimes you have to actually give them the reason, give them the relief that, oh my goodness, she's taking me off the hook. I don't have to do this. Because I was never that kind of salesperson anyway. It didn't matter. I wasn't forcing anybody to do anything, but I wanted to make sure, especially because I was insurance and financial services, I didn't want anybody unprotected. And that to me was my responsibility. So
that also sounds very caring, I'm sure, to the customer. I'm trying to take care of you regardless of whether you use me.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Ellen Graham is saying, great takeaways about those who need to know it's okay to close the file on them. Okay, that wasn't a question, but what other questions do you guys have? We don't have to do it in chat. You can just ask. Okay, the thing that was occurring to me is I was thinking for big sales, for larger sales, what you're saying makes sense in terms of the time and effort to close the sale. What do you do about the smaller things, and particularly with like e-commerce related sales?
It's basically the same thing. It's still a maybe. It's still a maybe. You are much better off not having that thing hanging over here saying, okay, so next week I'm going to get this. So next week and the money's going to come in next week. You don't need that. You don't need that. You have to actually tell yourself that maybe you're not the right person for that. That's one of the things that I would tell people. You should know your people. If you're trying and really trying to get somebody to do something that you really believe they need, maybe they don't need it. Maybe they don't want it. Maybe they can't afford it. What's the worst thing? Here's the thing. Nobody wants to tell you they don't have the money. Nobody wants to tell you that. Nobody. They don't want to say I can't afford it. That's horrible. Oh my goodness. That means I'm a loser. I've got this big L on my head. How could I tell you I have no money? It's horrible to do that. Sometimes you have to excuse yourself or remove yourself from the situation. When we would have a husband and a wife and they were looking back and forth at each other, you knew there was something going on there. Okay. They couldn't make a decision. Something was going on. So what I would do is I would excuse myself. I would say, you know what? I just need to get something from my car. And I would walk out and I would take my time and I would come back like 5 minutes later. And in those 5 minutes, she said to him, we only have $12 in our checking account until we get paid. Or she said to him, this is too expensive. Is there any way to do it, a different way, or whatever it was? When I would come back in, there would be a response. We really want to do this. However, can we wait until next week? Absolutely. Sometimes you have to remove yourself. With e-commerce, remove yourself. remove yourself from the situation, come back in, at another point. But just ask them, is it okay if I contact you in another week? What are they going to say? Huh?
I just have a question.
Sure.
How would you guide somebody like myself? My background is in nutrition. I've done some counseling over the years, but really my background has been staying at home with my children. And I've done some projects and things over the years where I've stayed in this nutrition compartment. And now my daughter and I have designed a product that we feel very confident about. We've gotten good feedback on, but I don't know the business arm. I don't know this. Okay, we've got it packaged. We've sent it out as test product. We're getting good feedback. I don't know what to do with it now. I don't know how to sell it. And so that's why I was like, do I start with this is great for me because I love this whole sales thing. I've always been probably pretty good in relationships and being involved in things, but I don't know how the sales piece of it to sell something that I believe in is hard. And I get what you're saying about people aren't necessarily going for the product, they're going for the message behind the product. And I feel like my message has been ingrained in me since way back. I mean, it's a message that I feel is like very true to me and what I believe in. So I feel like, I should be able to sell this, but I don't know how to start the sales process. So like, where do you even begin?
So do you know who your person is?
My person, meaning who would be?
Who are you going to sell it? Who would buy this from you? Do you know who that person is?
Well, I know who the type of people are, but I don't know really where to start, find them. Like I've got ideas, but.
Okay, so let's just pretend for a second. Let's pretend that the person that you need to talk to is a mom who is very into nutrition, who also works outside of the home and is in real estate. Okay, I'm just giving you that because I'm just trying to show you have to have this person outlined. Okay, because if you say all women and you ask me, do I know anybody? Well, I know a lot of women, but that I'm going to pull the curtain down because I can't do that. But if you're asking me if I know, women that are in real estate, I can say, yeah. And women that are very health conscious, yeah. And women that, and moms. So you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it goes from here to here.
Right.
And so then now that we know they're realtors, where do they hang out? Online, offline. Okay, so you can Google that. Like, where you live in Oklahoma, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you went on to Google and you said realtors in Oklahoma City, you're going to get a whole slew of them. Okay, so now it's your turn to be the detective. Okay, you're going to look at some of them because maybe there's 50. Well, 50 is a lot for you to start with, but let's look at 5. Okay, don't overwhelm yourself. Look at 5 and look at their website or look at their landing page and see, okay, these are all men. Okay, they're not my people. Next. Okay, it doesn't mean you can never sell to men, but right now you have to be super focused. Okay, so now you look at this one, and this is a group of all women, and they kind of look like you're a woman. You don't know if they have kids, but they all look health conscious, and and they're local. Okay, so I'm going to move them over here. Okay, now whatever the product is there part of it that you can pull out and give it away?
That's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Okay. So now you've got these realtors that you can talk directly to. Remember, your messaging has to talk to them. So they go, oh my God, she knows me. She's talking directly to me. Your messaging has to be so clear. Even if you say women in real estate, that's what I mean. Just like whatever that, you have to talk directly to them so they hear you. You can start, a little focus group, and you can offer a group of women, whatever the price of the product is. Let's say the product is $100 or $1,000, whatever it is, cut it in half. For this focus group, I would like for you to be part of my focus group or my founders group. Forget focus, my founders group. Okay, and offer them. You can even offer, 1 or 2 people for no charge, just to get the buzz going. But the first thing you have to do is you have to know who your people are. Who is that person? You have to even name that person. Mine is Jennifer. I don't know why it's Jennifer, but it's Jennifer. So I know when Jennifer's walking towards me, I know who Jennifer is. You should write down everything there is to know about your person. Everything. What do they like to read? What do they like to do? Whatever it is. And then take the things that you know to be true, like you believe that, you believe that all women should do, I believe that women I believe that fitness, whatever it is, all the beliefs, and put that into your messaging once you know your person. But you have to know your person, because the sales are not going to come from the immediate world. They're not. You have to be so super focused and get people to support you.
So then you're saying, once you've identified that, then you approach those businesses with that message. So I've got a lot of work to do in that area of definition. I've got stuff written down, but other than approaching a running group that I'm involved in, and friends, I've had a hard time figuring out who is, I know who the type of people would be, but this is helpful to say, narrow it down, identify it, and then basically go on like LinkedIn or just local businesses and just look for this is an alignment.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Lori, you're creating a sandbox of your people. When you were little and you were in a sandbox and you didn't like somebody, what did you do? You either threw sand at them, you kicked them out, or you got out, right? So take your sand sifter now and say all those things that you've written down. Who is my person? Who do I want to spend time with? Who am I going to love to spend all my time with? Who is that? And if it, like you're in a running group, did they give you good feedback from your product?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So start with them. What did you like about this? Tell them to pull it apart. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Who would you recommend this to? And I'll say one more thing, and then I'll go back to you, Donna. When I was putting out Women in Leadership for one of my courses, I did a survey on LinkedIn, and I went to 300 of my first connections, not the people that would say, oh my goodness, I love you so much, I would do anything for you. The people that were truly first connections professionally that would listen to me. And I asked them permission. That's the first thing I did, is I asked permission, can I do a survey with you? And it's about women in leadership. Of the 300 people that I sent it to, 300 people said yes, because I asked permission. Nice. I asked permission. That's a biggie right there. So then I said to them, the survey will take less than 5 minutes. It's 3 questions. Okay. The 3 questions were, number 1, do you believe that there should be more women in leadership? That was a throwaway question. And it's yes or no, but I got lots of paragraphs after that. The second question is, if you were doing an initiative for women in leadership, should men be included? Another throwaway question. Okay, I want to know, but that wasn't my question. Okay, again, yes or no, I got paragraphs. The third question was my question. My question was, if there was an initiative for women in leadership, what would have to be included for you to be interested in it? Okay, that's where I got all the good stuff. So then what I said to them was, thank you so much. This took a lot of, courage for you to answer these questions. Here is the chapter from my book on courage. And I sent everybody the chapter. Okay, so that was another touch point that I did. Then I told them, as soon as I had everything compiled, I will send them all the responses. This was 100% confidential. Nobody's name was going to be on it. It was just going to be the results. So when I did that, I put it together in a beautiful pie chart. All different colors. It looked great, and all the information was on it. But with that, I said, thank you so much. Here are the results as promised. Now that you know how important this is to me, who do you think I should talk to? And guess what I got? Tons of referrals and introductions.
Perfect.
So if you need help on that, just connect with me and I'll help you do it.
Perfect. Put your stuff back in the chat, would you guys, please, so that you can reach out to Judy. You guys, unfortunately, time's up. This has been a terrific conversation. We could keep going for another half an hour. Judy, any final words from you about what actions we need to take coming out of this?
Yeah, let me just put this in the chat for you. Hang on a second.
All right. Okay, we're seeing wow. We got Judy's contacts. Yeah, this has been great.
Okay, so the things that I would tell you to do right now to implement is, I would say, number 1, be very focused. Be very focused on your, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whether it's your people, whether it's your products, whatever it is, be very focused. And then with that, be intentional. Be intentional when you reach out to your LinkedIn people, to that make sure it's not just people, it's your people. So be intentional in everything you do, the people that you meet, the people that you connect with, just be intentional. And then the third thing is, make sure you connect with each other, connect with me, connect with people, because that's how you're going to build your business. And that's how you're going to build your relationships and build your network. Just connect. And most of all, know your people. Just know your people. Know the people that you surround yourself with, the people that are going to elevate you and not push you down, the people that are good for business, the people that are not. Just know your people. And that's it. And I hope you all connect with me. And this has been awesome, Donna. Really,
Please
thank
do.
you.
Gosh, this has been great. You've been a terrific guest, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry this is over. All right, guys. So we do this every Friday at 10 Central. We've got amazing guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. Jessica Miller-Merrill will be here next week. She's the founder of Workology. She's also a Twitter expert, and she's going to be talking about the human side of business and some of those key things that you need to be aware of. Nan McKay is coming on the 21st to talk about gold in the golden years, talk about her book. She's been on the program several times, I mean, as a participant. And then, of course, we do our networking every fourth Friday of the month. So on the 28th, we'll just do a pure networking session. We do breakouts. And this is a great place to do exactly what Judy's recommending. You'll meet people, you'll meet potential customers, potential referral partners, all kinds of things. I'm going to be doing a program about getting leads through building your network. And if you have an interest in participating in that, please put that in the chat. I'd appreciate it. Download our Google Chrome extension off of pursepower.com. I post every speaker every Monday for every Friday, so you can go there every week and register. And these are terrific. People really enjoy them. And we've had some amazing speakers like Judy for about 1.5 years now. Please buy from women-owned and women-led companies. Like and share our social media posts. Let your friends know about this Friday broadcast, please. Any final words, Judy?
Just that I'm thrilled to be here, and I know that this is going to be a great year for all of us. You just really want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to share your brilliance, because somebody is waiting for it. Someone is waiting for it. And if you don't share it, you're doing them a disservice, really. So don't be shy, just connect with people. People want to be connected with. So that's all I got.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you again. Thank you so much. And remember, please, Purse Power, we have it. Let's use it. Hope to see you next Friday. Thanks, you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.